committee meeting for June 8th, 2023. Roll call.
All right. Committee member Arnie.
Here.
Committee man McKellar. Here. Committee member Loughlin.
Here.
Committee member Williams.
Here.
And committee member Toft.
Here.
That's good.
And we'll now do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Daniel, do you kind of want to lead this, or?
Sure, yeah, I can take it. So we're on approval, item 4, approval amendment of the agenda. We did have a couple members who wanted to add some things tonight, so I figured we could start with Mr. Toft and then move down the row.
Thank you. I would like to add 2 items real quick. We talked about the signs in February. With the expansion going through and everything opening up for the summer, I'd really like to get these signs up that we talked about. Really, I just think the signs, all that we need, we have no alcohol use, no cannabis use, use porta potties would be the 3 that I would really like to see out there. I did some measuring of the sign size. I know that was an issue. I measured all the signs that we presently have in the various parks. And I think so that everybody can say, well, gee, I didn't see it. We need to have them 24 by 24. And if we, I'd say, I'd like to see a sign for each of those items, but whatever, I'm not privy to how the sign, how much information you can put on a sign that people are going to take in. So, I'm open to somebody who's got expertise in that, but I'd really like to see that addressed. And also, I know Diane has wanted to increase the budget. I talked about this at the council meeting, and I would think that'd be great, but I think we need to know what things actually cost. And I've talked to Mr. Chansky briefly about this about a month or so ago, and he said we can do it, where we literally keep track of what the actual cost and expenses are for the items that we are making recommendations on. I mean, I get we don't have to run it like a business, but I still think we owe it to the taxpayers to know if we're recommending that we add another 18 holes just to use this, because I'm familiar with the topic, disc golf expansion. What does it cost us to run the first 18? And so we have a baseline of what we could do for.
Point of order. Are these being added to the agenda, or is handling them now?
He's just explaining them to be added to the agenda.
Right.
We'll move on to the items in a brief moment.
That's
Is
it.
that all? Okay.
Thanks.
So then we'll take both of these. Let's do one at a time.
Okay.
Let's do the first one here, which is the sign one you were talking about, and we can go further into that once we get to that point. We would be adding that under new business as I say 6B. Is that all right with everybody?
You bet.
Okay. So let's take a motion and a vote on that. So can I get a motion for that?
I make a motion that we include the sign, putting signs up at the various venues that we are in charge of. We'll make it 6B. I make that motion.
Okay. Can I get a second?
I'll second it. Can I second it?
Oh yeah, of course.
I'll second
Yeah, you can
that.
second. Yeah. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Opposed?
Are we voting to add it to the agenda, or we're voting for the signs?
We're voting to add it to the agenda.
Okay.
This is just to put it on for 6B.
Okay.
Okay.
I
So
got it
is
now.
that a yes or a no, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, let me write that down real quick here. Motion, Loughlin second. Okay, so that was the first one. The second item is the budget item you were just talking about. I think you're talking specifically about adding an item to track cost expenditures.
For
with
government
the-
accounting, yeah, is typically
government
what they,
accounting?
I know you're familiar with it.
Yes,
For
okay.
all items that we are in charge of, from the, fishing pier to the walk trails to,
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
So we could throw that in as 6C, again, under new business. I'll mark that down here. Okay, so that's, again, just voting to add it to the agenda under new business as 6C. Yep.
What about 7C? Doesn't that cover it?
Yeah.
That's up to you guys to decide right now.
I won't know then.
Bill, what do you think?
well, that's specifically asking for more money. I'm asking before we ask for more money that we know what the things that we are in charge of actually is costing us right now or going forward for sure, is what I'm asking
I
for.
think it's redundant.
Well, I'm just like trying to figure this out here. It says kickoff, so like just the discussion of the budget, I think is.
Sure, sure.
Yes, it can be wrapped in there.
Sure, I mean, if we get more money, that's fantastic, but I just want to make sure we're allocating it in
Yeah.
such a way that we're watching out for the taxpayers. Okay.
Okay, so would you like to make that?
Yeah, I'll make that motion that we address, do you want me to describe that issue, or I make a motion that we look at the government accounting issue for the areas that we supervise?
Do you want to put that in under 7C, or do
Yeah,
you want?
7C.
Okay, so we're just tacking that on as a discussion
Sure.
in 7C?
Gotta
Okay.
withdraw
There's
that.
no real need to add a motion to add it to the agenda
Okay.
then, because it's rolled into a current item.
Okay.
So we should be good on that.
Okay.
So then the new agenda is exactly as is before you right now, with 6B currently added in for the signs. And then you wanted to go, ma'am.
Yes. I just wondered, isn't there a budget from last year that shows us where the expenses are from all those? I thought we saw a big packet with all that in it from last year. So we do have that available, don't we?
We had it.
We have a budget available, but what Mr.
Not
Toft.
broken down?
Not broken down in the
Okay.
way Mr. Toft is talking about. So if I can extrapolate a bit for you here, sir.
Sure.
What
Yeah.
Mr. Toft is talking about specifically, I believe, just because we've talked about it a couple times previously,
Mm-hmm.
is adding specific budgetary lines that are a little more broken down into actual line items as opposed to the general broad categories we have under our current system, which is more of a just
Got it.
cash basis.
Yep.
We can, of course, do that if you guys choose to do that, but that's specifically the item that I believe he's talking about. Is that correct?
Like gasoline for the mowers,
Yeah.
labor costs, depreciation.
Yes, a greater breakdown, which we
Yeah,
don't have that
specifically
greater
what
breakdown
we're-
right
So
now.
we can ask staff to pull that, because that's what, for history, which you want, and we want to see the history.
I don't know if they can backdate what they did in history, because I talked to Joe Zerden on this about a month ago, and he said that he's got to keep track of the hours, so it's more work for him. But I think if we're going to ask for money, I think it's a worthy thing for us to want to see as we progress here on this committee, to watch out for us. Well, just
Absolutely. Yeah,
taxpayers
for
and
sure.
the residents here.
Yep.
Just as a side note, backdating it would be kind of hard.
Okay,
We
so
could
just this is a
probably
going
do
forward
it, but it would be
thing.
difficult. This
You're
would be
not
the going
asking for
forward.
history then?
No,
but you
no, I'm
kind of
not.
were, I thought I heard you said you want
I
to see
came up
what
with
we
my own
had
history over
spent.
the last year,
Okay.
and I just want to move forward
Okay.
at this point.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
We had this last month.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
This is what was in last month in our packet. the
Yes,
part.
that's the current budget. That's just the current design of the budget, yes.
So we were talking about a more, like with subheadings under each of these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
subheadings and
Yep.
a better breakdown.
Makes sense.
Sounds good.
Okay, so with that, current agenda is sitting before you with the addition of 6B, which is the sign item, and then we're going to roll back to the budget item there when we're talking about 7C. That sounds good to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can we get a motion on that for approval of the agenda? Okay, McKellar
Second.
is motion. Sorry, who was second? Arnie? Okay. Sorry. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Would you like to move on, Madam Vice Chair?
Please.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so that was approval amendment of the agenda. We'll move into open forum. If anyone would like to make comments on the agenda that are, well, anyone would like to make comments to the public that are not on the agenda, seeing as there's nobody here, they really can't, so. But I will give you all as committee members an opportunity, if there's anything you wanted to say or a council member wanted to say that wasn't on the agenda, now would be the time, I guess.
You know, I just have a quick question, and
Sure.
it's just about the plan that we're supposed to put together, you know, for the next 5 years or whatever.
Master.
Plan.
7B?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's item 7,
I'll wait,
or, yeah, that's there.
so I have nothing.
Okay, perfect, so,
I have some questions for Mr. Barone, but I was going to say for the disc golf discussion, if that's okay? Because they have to do with the disc golf, just some decisions about the permits and that type of thing.
would you like to do those during the disc golf update,
Yes.
which is item 7A, or do you
Yeah,
want to?
yeah, let's-
Okay,
let's-
7A?
yeah.
Okay, so we'll make sure to come back to you on 7A then. Okay, perfect. All right, so seeing no comments then, moving on to item 6A, new business. May 11th, 2023, regular Parks and Recreation Committee meeting minutes. So, the minutes, obviously, from the last meeting are before you. We are looking for approval of these minutes here.
Make the motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, that's motion. Sorry, who was that second?
Yes.
Long one? Okay, thank you.
Sandy.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion on the minutes you'd like to have?
I'm going to throw this out there real quick. Not a big deal. It was stated that disc golf is an Olympic sport at the last meeting. It is not an Olympic sport. And I wouldn't have brought it up if this wasn't being recorded, so I just wanted it on the official minutes.
2024 it is.
It's not. It's not the Olympics.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Very good, motion carries. Okay. Bounce back here. So we are now moving on to 6B, which was the item that Mr. Toff wanted to add for signs. So
Sorry, I just looked it up. Disc golf joins the prestigious lineup of Olympic events in Paris 2024. So
It
there,
wasn't before.
Googled.
Yes, it was at the last meeting.
It's not been in the Olympics until next year.
Right,
Right,
right.
right.
That's what I said at the meeting, Bill.
I don't know if you did or not.
okay, so good to move on?
Got it.
Okay, cool. All right, so that was item 6A that we just covered, the meeting minutes. Let's move on to item 6B, which is the sign item that Mr. Toft brought forward. Would you like to take the lead on this, Mr. Toft?
Yes, you know, we had that issue where we found alcohol containers in the disc golf course garbage cans, and there was some issue about that there was an ordinance that really wasn't known about, that wasn't being enforced, and talking to the chief and Officer Garcia, they said if we had signs up, they'd be able to do something about it and enforce the actual ordinance. So that's why I wanted to get the signs up. You know, I haven't been able to, I wanted to go to, in all honesty, I thought this meeting was going to be next week, so I was going to go through all the areas that we cover so I could see what signs I thought would be appropriate. But I know we need them down at the disc golf course for sure. And perhaps the public swimming beach. You know, my wife's used that before, and she says it's fantastic, but there's never been any trouble down there that she's aware of. But, you know, I haven't been down there. But I just think we need to get those signs up so we could, you know, in the middle of a residential area, we need to have some enforcement down there for people drinking, whatever else could start happening after August 1st.
So first of all, is there an ordinance in the city that says we can't drink in a park? Because I remember my parents taking me to parks and drinking in the parks, beers, you know, so I don't know, do we have that specific ordinance in Breezy? If we don't, we can't.
I believe for drinking in the parklands, yeah, we do have an ordinance in
We do.
place. I do not know the exact language of the
Okay.
ordinance off the top of my head, but I do know it exists somewhere in there.
Okay, we should make
Cer-
sure that, so we're not.
The chief told me that, yeah.
jumping
And
the gun. Okay.
I would assume that Chief
Okay.
Sandell knows what he's talking about on this front, to be honest. He's the expert on
So
that.
then we can quote the ordinance in the sign. And also, I want to consider maybe making it smoke-free. We have to do an ordinance for that then.
Yes,
And if we make it
smoking is a little more
smoke-free,
complicated.
because that will take care of a number of issues, especially because everything's so dry, and we don't want people smoking out in a wooded park.
I agree.
That could go up like and light up all those houses, you know? So I would like that
Yeah.
myself, to be added to it. So that's new, but that's not an ordinance we have, I don't think, right now, so.
No,
We'd have to make one.
Yes, so an
And
ordinance.
that would be the council?
Yes. So an ordinance would need to be written and constructed and go through the process and all that stuff, and it would be subject to final approval by council. That would be for both smoking and I'll say as well for probably a separate ordinance for cannabis now, because the governor has signed the cannabis bill.
Right.
Now, I will just let you guys know the exact regulations for compliance and stuff surrounding cannabis is a little sketchy right now just because it's signed, but the legislator did that thing where they were like, yeah, we did it, let's pass it off to one of the commissioners. So right now it's before a commissioner, I believe it's Deed, I think, I could be wrong there.
But if we
it's
just say
before a
no
commissioner.
smoking of any kind, that's what.
Could do no
that's what we're
smoking
gonna
of any
say.
kind,
Yeah.
possibly, but it depends
Because
upon
the
how
whole point is what it's lit up fire, you know?
for cigarettes, but most of these people are using vape pipes. You don't even see the smoke. People sit in classrooms and use vape pipes.
Right. That's different.
And
I
that's a
mean,
different thing as well. The
Right.
only reason I say it might need to be two separate ordinance items for cannabis and cigarettes is because the state may not define them both as
The same.
smoking.
So do
there-
we forward this on, or do we make the ordinance and then pass it on to the council?
No,
Or did
lawyer.
we say that we need an
It has
ordinance?
to be drawn up by the lawyer,
The lawyer draws it up.
probably, yeah.
Yes,
So do we just make a recommendation to the council to make this ordinance, or do we do it with the lawyer? How does
At
that
this
work?
point, what we would probably do is if you guys wanted to talk about adding that ordinance, we would ask that you recommend it to come back to us as staff.
Okay.
And we sit down and
Ah.
we work with the city attorney.
Got it.
And try to piece together exactly what that ordinance is going to look like and how it's going to go through. Ordinances are very technical things.
Yeah.
So we kind of want to make sure that it's
Okay.
right. What we would do is you would tell us, hey, we as the Parks and Recs Committee want to see how this goes and what it might look like. We as staff would probably then bring something back to you and we could make changes to it or we could talk about it further, do any number of other things. Because it's an ordinance, it would probably have to go before planning and zoning as well, just so you're aware. And there would be a process to kind of pass it down. It is a long chain. But it sounds like Mr. Maroney, do you want to say something?
Can't we put a sign up anyway? No smoking?
We could put
I
a
mean-
sign up that says no smoking, but
Right.
it's functionally unenforceable.
Right, we don't enforce it,
But
but at
we
least we
could.
have a sign up there so these people might keep somebody from lighting up a cigarette. Like, it is very dry back there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, you absolutely could. If you guys wanted to just have a sign that says, please no smoking in the park.
and we'll
thank you.
enforce the ordinances that we have in the books and work on getting the other ones online.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could do that, just as I said, understand right for this second, if somebody was smoking in the park and somebody called the cops would be like, well, they can smoke. There's nothing we can do about it. But that's just for right now.
May I speak? When we had a sign discussion previously, I think the Joes were going to, or maybe just Garcia, was going to check what the police had on record, check what they could legally enforce, and get back to us. And we haven't heard back, so I think that's what we need to hear, or maybe Dave was going to bring that back. I don't know, but we had discussion, and someone was supposed to be working on it, some staff person.
Yes.
Do you remember, Mike?
To that extent, I'm not drawing a memory on that right now. I did forward you just an email right now. Chief Sandell did email me back, this is a while back ago. There is an ordinance against, I'll read it, 110.032. I'll repeat that, 110.032, if you care to look back in the ordinance. Consumption and possession of alcoholic beverages on streets, public property, and private parking lots to which the public has access to. There's a full description of that. So that is the ordinance that we do have in effect for drinking on park public property. So when you sign that, that is an enforceable action. And Mr. Assistant is stating is on the smoking side, why we can and do that, and I encourage that. Smoking should not be allowed. What he's trying to get to is enforcing is difficult until said ordinance can be added and done, then it can be an enforceable thing. But I would agree with Mr. Toft on discouraging it and signing
yeah,
and such.
absolutely.
I have a question here, because we probably won't get this done before tournaments start out there. Can there be rules that tournaments have, just city rules, not ordinances, but rules that they have to follow in order to have a tournament?
So I believe that's going to be more in that discussion that Mr. Toff also wanted to have on the discussion, I believe, on the next A. And so, yes, I can share my opinion on it. I can't speak on council. I can share my personal opinion on that. So when we get to that, I'd be more than happy to share with you on that. The other thing I'll just share with you, talking with other individuals about signage and rules and regulations and things, you know, it's one thing to put up a sign, which is I encourage, and I'm a firm believer on that. One of the things that actually talking with somebody, who here has a smartphone? who doesn't is really the question nowadays. QR codes are a thing, especially came out with COVID. One of the ideas that presented with them is put up a QR code and say, anybody using this park, I don't care if it's the disc golf, the beach, anything that we want rules and regulations, they can snap a QR code. That way it's a website essentially that you can modify at any time, you can update. The QR code is gonna stay there forever. It's the website, the rules and regulations. So if cannabis wasn't gonna be approved this year, maybe we didn't have to really call it out, but if it got approved next year, the QR code could then automatically update that website for such rules and regulations. Going a little bit further than the sign of what you can and cannot do, they even said maybe have them put their name in of who's using the park, that they agreed to said terms and conditions. Is it a little bit far? Maybe, but you can also see who's accessing it, get data and details. But it was just an idea that they passed along, and I'm just passing since you're talking about the signs.
Yeah, and in addition to that, on the QR code, a lot of the bike trails that are public, they have a QR code or a little drop box, and I'd rather go with QR code, and you can make a donation of any amount for
Oh, I'd love to get in the
round.
donation
So like $5,
discussion.
$5 a round, $10 a round, you could put a suggested there, but they don't have to, nobody has to, but I always do because I want to help pay for what I use. So that's another thing we could do with that QR.
Maybe we could collect a fee too from the golfers too.
I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, through that QR code, real easy. Because they already have that out there right now to show the course and the layout. So you can beep in there and then it'll keep, you can keep your score and everything for the golfers. They already have something for their own, for the game itself with a QR code.
I'd be more than happy to share more additional thoughts upon that on the donation. I know we're talking about the sign, so at a later time,
Yep.
offline, whatever.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Be responsible for that website.
That'd be like a city website. So a QR code, if you're not familiar with it, is essentially a URL, just in the form of a picture. And so that would be something that we could have a landing page on our website. And so that way we maintain it. So if there's a new rule or regulation or you enforce X, Y, Z, it's an update to that. And we encourage everybody that whenever they go out, snap a picture for our updated rules and regulations. You still have to have a sign that say, snap it and, acknowledge it. Maybe you still want to have some high level, no smoking or no drink. I don't think those things are going to change. So you can still say, put those things physically. But, I've seen some parks and recs have lengthy rules and regulations. You're going to get yelled at for not Mike.
Yep.
And
If you're not
so
talking
you could
into the
change.
right side of it, it won't work.
You could change things, and it would be a city-owned website.
So also, I like the idea of just tracking who's out there, and if we can get it so that at the first hole or at the beginning of the 218s, a place where people could snap a selfie, and then they hit the QR code, then we get who's there, how they're using it. We can put those on our website, using the park in any way, how they're using the park.
Yes.
So that would be great too.
That beats updating the signs all the time.
Yeah.
Make
And-
one generic sign.
And that was kind of the discussion that was occurring of you can update it today, and this was before the cannabis thing was all passed, and I was just mentioning, I getting ideas, and he's a very techie person, he's like, why not put it online, everything's online, and then that way you could capture data, who's scanning it.
Yeah.
A lot of things, when you access a website, you get a lot of details. It takes a while to mine that, but data is gold, and if you can get that data, you have that. I know I went really far into the weeds with this discussion, so I apologize.
So to circle back around to who's in charge of that, that's me. I would be the one doing all of that. Most of what he said there is possible on the new website once it's up and running. I was going to get into that a little bit later. That is launching on June 12th, which is next Monday. So there's some possibility of doing those things there. I guess to kind of circle back around for a minute to Miss Williams' original question of sort of, I guess this has kind of turned into the update for you guys on the signs now. We hadn't brought it back quite yet just because we were thinking, well, maybe it might be something to talk about at the workshops, but since it's on the agenda now anyways, you've kind of heard everything we know. The only ordinance that's really enforceable within the current regulation setup we have is the no alcohol one. We can add no smoking and such things on there if you guys would like. Understand they're not enforceable at this exact moment, but if you would like to make a recommendation to staff to look into what an ordinance that says no smoking might look like, we can do that. I would possibly recommend on holding off on no cannabis for a little bit, just because I genuinely don't know how the state's going to come down on defining the term. They have a lot of time. Cannabis has been decriminalized, so nobody can get in trouble for it anymore, and people who had cannabis records are supposed to have them expunged shortly, but actual recreational sale and whatnot, I believe, is limited until 2026. So it's going to be a little bit of time before the state kind of gets into the weeds and figures out exactly how they're defining cannabis, how much you can carry, who's smoking, what's smoking, is it even smoking? So I might hold off on that just a touch. We could look into it if you want, but I would say if we were trying to make an ordinance like right now on that, it could just be in violation of state law within 6 months.
You know, I understand what you're saying, and I kind of agree with it. I got a customer that's 85 and he smokes cannabis for health reasons, so I get it. But you don't let somebody smoke cannabis at a high school basketball game or drink alcohol. And we're in a city park surrounded by a residential area full of kids. I don't care what the state law says. I don't want it in that venue, ever.
Well, we should also add drinkable cannabis too, because those are really good, and we want to say that you can't drink those there either. I mean, you don't want, they're on the same level with alcohol now, so we might as well say that as well. But, like you said, you might have to hold off until the actual rules come in. So do we want a motion like that we want to add no smoking to all the signs, but we want to have staff and the lawyer look into the specifics for an ordinance under smoking and cannabis drinks?
Gail, is your motion going to include anything like the cross-country ski trail and all that? You want all new signs through the city for all the parks?
If we're going to replace a sign, we're going to have no smoking on it.
When it gets replaced?
Yes.
But you don't want all the signs ripped out and changed up?
No.
Because that's a lot of money.
No, we're not there yet. We're just saying.
We're not
in
ripping
general.
out signs, we're just adding a sign, right? I mean,
When we
like this
do.
park here, there's baseball games and little kids in there all the time. I think we should, I walked there today, and there are no signs like that state no alcohol consumption, or, I'm assuming people are using the bathroom facility over there, so it's not needed. But, 55 acres of disc golf and one porta potty, as the last I heard, I mean, there's going to be people going in the woods around.
No.
Oh, sure there is.
No, I mean, we're going to have a bathroom at the main, and then
They only have plans for one, is the last plan I heard.
No, I'm going to be against that. I want a porta potty.
Mike,
over
how
at
many
the
are there
old-
gonna be?
At the old parking lot, but that's digressing. So, yes, we're off track. So I think we need to have the whole sign discussion later, but we just want to make sure when we add any sign that it's going to say no smoking. And then we want the staff to look into smoking ordinance, adding a smoking ordinance with the lawyers and finding out what is proper there. So is that two motions or is that one?
Did you want, can Mr.
May I
McKellar go
say-
first?
Yeah.
I just want just a minute ago, we were getting way into the weeds about cannabis. I think just as a blanket statement, if we say for fire safety, no smoking at all, you got it covered. And it's not a regulation or rule or anything, it's just for safety reasons.
Yeah, I mean, look at the wildfires. I mean, look at what's going on.
All rules come out for the state, and we're not violating anything by saying we don't want our houses burning down and our
Right.
woods burning down. It's just as simple as that for now. I mean, if you start talking about cannabis, you got gummies, you can eat,
Right.
there's so many
Right.
different things. We
Yeah,
just
I
don't
like
want
that.
the woods to burn down, and
Yeah,
that's
he makes sense.
basically what the goal is right now. That's just my 2 cents.
I think that covers it, for sure.
Okay, so I'm kind of hearing two things, one motion right now. I'm hearing you want staff to look into what it would cost or what it would be like to get signs at, I guess, all the parks throughout the city that say no smoking on them, at least to start?
I think we need to have a full sign discussion because I think that's a whole different thing.
Okay, well, then,
What-
2 steps back for me here. So one of the items on the agenda is specifically about the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. One of the things we would be talking about in the Parks and Recs Master Plan, especially in workshop number 2, which I haven't talked to you about this yet, but there would be 4 workshops, and they would go through each section of the master plan as outlined in the current master plan, because you guys said we wanted to do it in-house rather than starting from scratch. You wanted us to try and update it. Part of what that discussion would be at workshop number 2 would be what is allowed uses in the parks. And if you guys whack out in the master plan, no smoking, no drinking, no this, no that, and you put that in the master plan and you say that's what it is, if there's ordinances that need to be updated to match that master plan, we as staff would take the master plan, try to look into the ordinance changes, do things that we need to do, get it before council, planning and zoning, those kinds of things. But maybe then, is it more of a, do we want to wait until the workshop and then decide what exactly is allowed in all the parks? And if you guys decide no smoking, no drinking, end of story on all public land, you could recommend that to council. Obviously, the council would be the ones who decide whether or not to actually have that happen. But you could make that recommendation. So there's sort of 2 thoughts there. Do you want to direct staff to do that now and preempt that discussion? Or do you want to have that discussion first and then have staff follow up after that?
Well, since we have an ordinance for alcohol, we can certainly put signs up for that, and I'm still okay with it. I like the idea about the fire prevention. That's going to be true no matter what ordinance is on the books, and most people, I think, will respect that. I just think,
Are you just thinking
let's
with a
take
little-
action here.
What are you thinking, a little sign to add? to the-
24 by 24 is
That's
like
perfect.
this, like this. It's a good size sign, and everybody will see it.
So to add to every single sign that we already have up there at every park?
So if,
It would just go on the same thing as the same,
Just the new disc golf course, because we don't have any signage
And
there.
then the baseball park, too.
So we get this, we have.
He's got something on it.
if I may, I apologize for injecting a lot today. This is
No,
your
please.
meeting. My mind, when we were talking about re-signing and doing everything, I'm thinking the nice Breezy Point, Welcome Park signs. And what I'm hearing is, and what I kind of just thought in my mind is, why not get a simple sign? And we've seen signs like this, like parking or restaurants and stuff. I think this would be I don't want to say cheap, but a cheaper option than replacing the nice, beautiful Welcome to Breezy Point City Park things, to start placing these at all parks and getting.
Right.
And
That's what I mean.
And I think that's where you're heading to. Is,
Right, I don't wanna
is-
replace
is
anything.
You don't want to replace it. Eventually, yes, you know, having all the signs all nice and neat and everything, and all the signs. But I think having just a clear cut, no, we don't allow smoking, and even something similar to this with no alcohol, and putting these at all properties. And you're not seeing this. What I'm showing.
so that
is-
sign would have both on there. That sign would have both no smoking and no alcohol.
And we can add the disclaimer for fire prevention purposes,
That would,
which, yeah.
I'm okay with that.
It's not pretty, but it gets the point across.
Well, we
exactly.
probably already
That's
have a
what we want.
sign up and a post, and that could just get screwed right onto it.
Yep.
So
both
it
the
wouldn't cost
no
us a
smoking.
lot of problem,
no
or
alcohol.
expense.
Children at play sign.
Okay.
You know, Guy?
A lot of options.
I mean, I'll be honest with you,
Apologies for
Kibbe,
that.
that's kind of the direction we've been looking for. It's
So we
just
could
kind of
put it up
something a
at the
little more
new-
clear, so.
The new golf course, the old golf course, you know, the entrance to both, and then at the ballpark.
Yeah, for sure.
just
Those
need
two, those 3 for sure. And then I want to see the other, the next 3 weeks, I'm going to explore every single avenue, every walking trail,
Wonderful.
the fishing pier and the swimming beach. So I'm not guessing, I want to have, knowledge about what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, they're gonna probably, for price, if you buy 6 or 10, it's probably gonna be the same as 3, I mean, per volume.
Can we amend your motion to direct staff to determine how many of these signs we would need with the various facilities we have and the cost on these things? Because they might be able to be put on the bottom of another, you know.
That's what I'm saying.
Two signs
Just
on one post.
screw 'em right onto the
So
other
why don't we direct them to
sign.
come back to us with that information on the smoking and the alcohol, and then we'll proceed from there.
Well, we
I
need
mean,
a
we're
s-
sitting
we need
here
a
trying to-
design.
We don't have any idea numbers, we
what
don't
it's gonna
have any
say.
idea cost.
Right.
We're like floundering around. Let's just toss
that-
it back to you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, Michael member or Councilman Maroney will need to email me that sign so I know exactly what I'm dealing with. So I know kind of what we're doing. But if you're okay with that sign and you're saying what, no smoking, no.
You can
Again,
make it.
Mike?
I'll second.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make a motion that we go forward with the sign creation that says no alcohol and no smoking due for fire prevention, and these will be attached to the poles or whatever present signs are attached to go with those signs. And I think the cost was not prohibitive, if I recall. We talked about that, I think, in February. And I'd like to see them just on the disc golf courses and in the ballpark here, so they're prominent, so, because that's where mainly the kids are going to be. And the other parks, maybe the beach, you
Even the
know.
walking trail parking lot, if people are smoking cigarettes
Yep.
going through there and
Yep.
it's by someone's house
Yeah,
and they light up and throw.
I'm all for it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
So if you,
that's my
like Diane
motion.
said, let's say, how many from the staff? How many?
Okay, so just to clarify the motion here. Okay, so we're talking about two signs essentially, or one sign that says two things.
Yes.
No smoking for fire prevention, no drinking alcohol, something along those lines. We're talking at the very least putting out at the disc golf course and the ballparks, and possibly also, you said, putting them on
The
a
walking trail parking lot.
walking trail parking lot.
I don't know if you need them at the beach.
I don't know what's at the beach. Boat launch.
And
Okay.
I believe it needs to specify as far as smoking of any kind, not just no smoking. Does that cover cannabis?
Okay, we can work that language and find it out. And then you guys are okay with the concept sign that he's presented there? Okay.
Yep.
I think as staff, we can actually work with that. Because that gives us a rough idea of kind of what a sign we're looking at. It gives us a better idea of what's exactly going on the sign. And at the very least, to start at the very least, we'll prioritize disc golf course and the ballpark out here, kind of figure out how much it's going to cost, that kind of stuff. You directed us, just to make sure, Mr. Toft, you're directing us as staff to go ahead and look into that, bring it back to you.
Well, I'm assuming we recommend that, because we don't have any power
Gotcha.
to say you do it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair
right,
enough, sir.
Right, yeah, we recommend that, yeah.
Okay, good. I'm just making sure I understand. Okay, so I think we can work with that. We'll figure it out. There's a motion on the floor. Can I get a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, Arnie, second.
Discussion?
Yep, we do need discussion on that now.
I want to have this clear. It's going to come back to us with some numbers, some costs, some number of signs, some installation timeline or something. So that we'll get it, but we're not just saying, go put up these signs, we don't care what they cost or wherever you put them, right?
Yeah, we'll come back. So we'll work it as staff.
Okay.
We'll come back with some costs and try to figure out installation times and that stuff, and then we'll bring it back to you guys and say, here's kind of what we found with this particular sign that you guys recommended, with these words. If we were to get 4 or 5, however many of them, it would cost this. Each one costs this much. With that much of guidance from you guys, that was kind of what we were missing the last time we talked about the signs.
And I'm assuming we're talking metal signs, not like fancy wood signs.
Metal.
and stuff
Oh yeah,
like
Metal.
yeah.
that. Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just kind of want to go back just a little bit because I really like to do it one time and then not have to do it again. So we talked about QR codes. Can we include for a full whatever, more information, something like that, scan this QR code, put that on the sign, and we don't have to ever touch it again? And then somebody can do what we talked about with scanning.
Well, they can research that and bring that back to us too.
Well, we talked about cost on March 7th, right here in the meeting. You can take a look at that. He detailed out what the costs were for various signs.
There's no alcohol right there at the public beach.
I mean, I like calling out those two categories when you get a long list, nobody reads any of it. So those two most important things, I think that's great. And if we end up with some other signs with the QR code or, like the bulletin board type thing we have over there now, we can add to that. But calling these out is good at all the parks, just making it a separate
Want the NMCA?
line. But I like the idea if we could get that on there. I don't know if that's going to hold it up a long time or not.
So if you want to add the QR codes, do you want to amend your motion, Mr. Toff, to add that on?
Sure, if it's doable. I mean, I don't want it to delay 5 months because we're waiting for a QR code. I'd like these signs up next month.
Okay.
So I guess that's where I want something immediate.
Separate motion.
But if it's not possible, I'm all for it if it's possible quickly.
Okay.
So,
If
Is
I-
it?
Yeah, if I may, I would continue with that motion to, because that's action, and make another motion to have staff investigate QR codes, and that might be more about the, and again, I apologize for hijacking this meeting, might be more of the master plan, but it could be certainly something that could be brought back, because once the QR code is there, it's there. Like, that's what
Right.
you do. And you can make a separate QR code for the beach and a separate one for that, because the beach has specific hours and timeframes, so that would be a separate QR code. Now, some of them might lead to the same spot, but then that way, if you want to change a certain rule for the walking trail versus the park versus the beach, they all have their own links, and they all have their own thing. So I would encourage another motion to have staff investigate such QR codes and cost and.
Okay, so I think that's a good idea, so let's hold off on that second motion for now, because we currently have a motion on the floor. Okay, so we've got the motion on the floor that Mr. Toft has been talking about. I think staff is pretty clear about what we're doing with that now. Did we get a second? We did get a second, yes, okay. So, if there's no more discussion, you guys ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so that motion's done. Now we want to talk about the second motion, which, Mr. McKellar, did you want to specify that at all, or?
Just that we investigate the QR code and having the rules and regulations for online.
Okay, QR codes, rules and regs online. Okay. Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, 12 seconds. Okay. Okay, did anyone want to have any discussion on that, or?
I just think we could, like when you have your license plate and you have to get your update every year, your tabs, I mean, we could literally maybe put up with the QR code for each separate one on the bottom of the sign or something too, down the road.
That would require room on the sign.
Yeah, a little white space on the bottom of the sign, but you could possibly add it later if we want to get these up quick, is all I'm saying. That's all I had.
Okay. Okay, I think we're pretty clear on that as staff too, kind of what we're doing there. At the very least, we know to bring it back to you. I will attempt, at this point, I'll say both of these items will attempt to bring them back as soon as we can. It might take us a little bit of time, so if it's okay with you guys, this might actually be a perfect thing to bring back at workshop number 2. When you're going to be talking about this anyways, we could bring back actual data, because you would have your stuff before then, your actual, or even workshop number 1. We'll bring it back when we can, but we'll try to kind of, at this point, I think, shoot for one of those workshop dates, which also, by the way, juxtapose against your other meetings as well, to try and make it so that you'll talk about it, and then you'll be able to get it approved. That's kind of the goal, is we want to give you time to look at it and then get it approved as quickly as is possible. So I can't tell you exactly what date we'll get that back, but we'll work on it, and I'll try to get it back to you as quickly as we can.
Just the QR code
No,
part?
both of them.
Both?
I'm
So you were
gonna-
looking for a little earlier than that?
Bureaucratic wheel turns slowly, I guess. So, yeah, if that's the most efficient way to do it, if we have to do it just once, because that works.
Okay.
Okay. I'll do it as fast as I can. I'll keep you guys updated. I promise. I know that's kind of a frustrating answer, but we'll try the best we can. Okay, so we've got Mr. McKellar's motion on the floor. We've got a second. We've had discussion. You guys ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so that was item 7B on the signs there. Good to move on to old business, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to old
Sorry.
business. Starting there is item number 7A, which is a quick update for you guys on the disc golf course and the decision that council's made the other day. Did you want to say anything before I went ahead, Mr. Maroney, or are you good? Okay, cool. Okay, so as you guys know, you had disc golf course at your last Parks and Recreation meeting, and you sent it back to council with your recommendations, and they've made their final decision essentially on it. Having received that recommendation, they essentially came down to 4 motions in total. First of those was that the city's going to move ahead with the disc golf course as staff time allows. So when we have opportunity to get out there and start getting it done and installing the baskets and doing all that stuff, we'll do it. It will take a little bit of time. It's not going to happen tomorrow because Public Works is very busy right now with other things. So we'll get to that. The second motion was that hole 5 and pin 5 are not to be placed until the hole gets realigned to the west of where it is facing right now. Again, won't happen tomorrow. It's not even, we're not 100% sure when it's going to happen, but that was what the decision was there. Additionally, we are, as staff, to create a special event permit, which we do have drafted. We're reviewing right now and trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do. But we have the special event permit drafted, and we are not to hold any additional tournaments beyond the 2 that were already pre-scheduled for this year in 2023, which are scheduled for June, I believe, 26, and then some date in September, which I don't remember off the top of my head. And we're not scheduling any more tournaments until such a time as we finish that permit in full, get it before the city council, and have them approve it so that they're good to go. And then the final motion was to have the planning commission continue the rezoning process for the parking lot area and the lots there. There was some discussion about reducing the size, possibly putting some park stuff there, a pavilion, a playground, things like that, and rejiggering it a bit. But they opted to wait until planning commission comes back with that item and actually approves it in full and puts it back before them before they start reconsidering exactly the uses of the parking lot. At this time, they didn't send it back to you guys, and there's really not any more action that needs to be done by you this second until the city council decides that they want you to take another look at it or do something else with it. So there's really nothing more to be done. But if you guys had any comments or anything or any questions you wanted to make, feel free.
Yeah, I do. Will you go ahead? I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
You know, I had overheard a conversation between some of the disc golf players, how they were excited they were going to be able to hold 2 tournaments at a time because we now have 2 18-hole courses. And are we going to allow that?
Absolutely not until the special event permit is done. They should know
That's what I'm
that.
saying, though. Can they, are we looking at the permit so they can hold 1 tournament?
We can look into that. It'll be council decision at the end of the day to decide whether or not they can or cannot do 1 or 2, but we can look into that matter and see about possibly doing that. I will say the way I have the permit drafted right now, that would probably be pretty difficult. Just because of the way I've got it drafted, I think it would be rather onerous for them to do 2 tournaments at once, but I'm honestly not 100% sure. We'll have to get back to you on that.
The permit, are we charging them anything for the special use permit?
Yes. Well, we are, as staff, of course, it is council's final decision whether or not
Right.
we charge something. We as staff, yes, we are currently.
What dollar
going
amount are you
direct-
guys going to charge them? Or don't you want to disclose that
We
yet?
don't know for certain right now, 100%. Our recommendation currently is like $500
Okay.
minimum.
Now, when the Bemidji Disc Golf Club comes in and runs a tournament, there was some talk at earlier discussions about the waiver liability that we should have every disc golf player sign so that it takes that liability off Breezy Point to the city. I know I've coached youth basketball for 35 years. I went to traveling tournaments, and there were several tournaments where we'd go there, and every kid's parent had to sign a waiver basically allowing that they were never going to sue them no matter what happened. It's Perringer Agreement, I think it's called. I'm no attorney, but it's some ironclad waiver that can be signed, and I think we should really take a strong look at that as part of the permitting process,
We can definitely do
in
that.
my opinion.
No, yeah, we can absolutely do that. There's nothing wrong with that. We can look into that as part of the special event permit process. I will say, other municipalities have worked in, I don't know for certain under Minnesota law, just because I don't know it off the top of my head, but in previous municipalities I've worked for in other states, we've required insurance on people running tournaments before, or some kind of liability coverage so that it's on them. Like, literally, you put it on them.
Right.
So if somebody gets hurt at their tournament, we're like, I mean, you were on our land, but it's not our tournament, you know, and we just leave it at that. Now, we'll need to, obviously, the special event permit is drafted, it's not finalized yet, and part of that finalization process will be giving it to the attorney to let him peel through it, tell us what can and can't be done. But if for security's sake you guys feel and the city council feels at the end of the day that we should have some kind of a liability waiver, yeah, I can put that in there.
Even if it isn't enforceable, the fact that they're signing a waiver makes it think, well, you know, I've got recourse, you know, I broke my legs falling down one of these hills, or whatever the case might be. It might prevent them from taking a harder look at it, in my opinion.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
And then I have a couple questions for Mr. Maroney, if that's okay. I think I have a solution for the whole 5. Now, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I'm not doing this in any way other than you.
We're
to
having
show
a conversation.
To show that my expertise is on the same level as somebody else's. Now, the course was designed by Mr. Humphrey and Mr. Van Camp in the second 18, is that correct?
I believe they work with city staff. Staff had the final say.
So they designed it and the staff looked at it and said, this is not okay, this is okay. Is that, what staff member had that level of expertise? I'm just curious.
So we can correct it, but Supervisor Joe Zierden had that final say.
Okay. Any of these people that had input into this, any of them have landscape architecture degree or a civil engineer or a hydrometric type of experience? Do any of them have that kind of background at all?
For opinions towards staff, I do not know if what they suggested and what their background is. I do not know that.
So Mr. Humphreys could have those types of degrees or certification, and Mr. Van Kampen?
Could he? Maybe. None. Maybe. I can't answer.
Okay, well, I thought you knew them, so you might know I don't know them at all, their personal background. Okay, reason I bring it up is because I called Jonathan out to the course a couple days ago, and we walked that whole area. And I think this is a really good solution myself. Hole 4 is a very long hole, and the tee box is down, and the disc is thrown up into a clearing area. And it's a pretty big clearing area. So if you cut hole 4 in half and put the basket somewhere on top of the hill, then you take the 5 tee box, which is now right basically over by their property line, and bring it up on top of that clearing more towards the west. It'll change the hole, obviously, and just bring it to where that woods is. It'll be a shorter hole. We completely block off anybody having to go down in front of the Curtin's house. We block that off, and it never has to flow down that way. Now, to get from 5 to 6, then, they will have to walk a little bit to get to that next hole. But as Madam Mayor said at the last meeting, well, this is all about exercise, and they'll just have to walk an extra 50 yards to get that next tee box. So to me, this makes a lot of sense. You know, it's really, you know, Curtin's put up a $500,000 house. Like 3 kids are involved in the area, and I just think that as a Breezy Point resident that wants a family like this to stay in the area, I think this is something we should do. I'm going to try to make a motion that we recommend this to the council, take a strong look at this solution tonight.
So my reply would be that would be the first time I've heard of that solution. And hearing that, not being on the course and not looking specifically for that solution, it sounds very eligible of that. Again, I know 4 of how that rolls out. I know where 5 is. And when I was walking it, when the Curtins were recommending to me when I met with them on site at their home, they wanted to shift it to the west to allow more buffer. And so when I walked it, my visual was taking that consideration And I looked at that alignment and I thought, that's what we could be doing. And so that's why the suggestion was, because that was what the original, this again is a new idea.
Well, I know what you're saying, and I looked at that also, but they'll have to take out so many more trees, again, a whole swath of trees. This way they don't lose any more trees, the area stays as natural as possible, and that's what's in every master plan I've seen, is that people like the natural beauty of our city, and I just think it makes a lot of sense, and you know, it's a pretty small compromise on their part. They don't lose any holes. They shorten a hole, they shorten 2 holes, and that's it, and they have to walk the whole 6. You know, versus what we had talked about, the Curtin compromise was losing 9 holes, and I know Steve Jensen brought it up, and I brought it up to, I think, Daniel, when we had our meeting. But I just think it makes a lot of sense.
And I personally would not be, again, I'd want to walk out there, and I'd actually
Yeah.
want to walk with Supervisor Joe Zierden just to validate how and what and look. I'm, again, first time hearing it, I'd like to walk it and visual, and I don't know if that's something you or Mr.
Yeah,
Curtin would want to go
me and
with.
Jonathan would
Mr.
meet you out there
Zierden.
for sure, Mike.
I'd be more than happy to. Again,
All right.
first time hearing it, I'm open to that solution.
Okay, well, thank you.
Did you have more questions, though? And again, that's
You know
just
what, I
my
did, but
opinion.
I'm going to let him go. That's it.
I have a question. Is this golf course designated a park or a disc golf course?
So this is actually something that you guys will be talking about in the master plan workshop as well. So the way that our designation in our land works right now is a bit funky, to say the least. We have more public land really than parks, and what designates a park and is defined as a park is a little kind of a gray area. Part of what we definitely want to nail down with you guys when going over the master plans and the workshops we're talking about is that question. Actually, that will probably be an item for workshop number 1 when we go over mission statement and kind of planning and things like that. Right now, it's just sort of zoned as public use land because that's really the zoning that we have. It's not like zoned as a disc golf course because we don't have a disc golf course zoning. It's essentially the same zoning as every other recreational piece of land we have in the city. And I think as well, even some technically not recreational ones. So this is something definitely we need to talk about at some point. I don't know if you want to talk about it right this second or if you want to wait until we get a little bit deeper into the master plan. I can do either depending upon what you guys kind of as a body want to do.
Well, I'm kind of curious if there's a tournament going on and a whole bunch of people want to go walking around in there. Who has the right of way? You know, I mean, like,
Yeah, that's going to be part of the procedures and, I mean, that,
Yeah,
like,
and that.
are we
No,
going to be
not
setting
yet.
the rules for that as the,
So a rules question like that more specifically is actually kind of probably the special event permit territory.
Right.
So like, are we going to allow other, so the special event permit, at least as a part of what I'm imagining it as right now, I can't promise anything, it's just my imagination and what I've written here and drafted. We do have them a requirement for kind of a site plan, to, you know, show us where you parking, what are you doing, if you have to do porta potties, where you putting them, where you guys walking, how many people you got, that kind of stuff. Sort of a question then is the special event permit is, I guess, is if there's a tournament going on, are we going to limit the course so that it's just reserved for the people who are having the special event? Or does the course stay open to the public despite the fact that the special event is going on? That's a question that kind of needs to be answered a little bit, and that we as staff are kind of chewing on right now, trying to figure out. Yeah, there's a lot of questions there. Truthfully told, I'm not quite capable or ready to give you a real answer on that right this second.
Well, that's not going to work. I mean, I don't know if you guys your kids play sports. I mean, like I said, I coached youth basketball a long time, and no other people came on the court when we were hosting a tournament or when we went to a tournament. So Sandy's point's well taken. It's going to be shut down to the public while they have the course. That's why I went back to the fee. We got to be charging, I think, a substantial fee to be losing the disc golf course for a whole day. I mean, I would start at $1,000. They're charging these guys, they're going to get 100, 200 people, they keep telling us, and they're going to charge, what is it, $90 to participate? They're
I don't
taking
know.
in thousands of dollars.
I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. Toff, I do not know how
Well,
much this
Mike,
golf
do you
course
know,
is charging, and
you're a disc
I
golfer.
If you claim me as a disc golfer, I golfed 3 times last year.
Oh, well,
and the year
I
before,
thought
2.
you were.
Nope. I was out there 3 times last year with my kids,
Okay.
two times the year before. I don't get out often.
Okay.
I wish I did. But I can give you a little bit more history if you care to hear about my history of the disc golf. The special event permit, I agree with full-heartedly. I agree that there should be a fee. If you go back in past minutes, there was a discussion of charging for such a use of the course, and this was back when Mr. Rogenkamp was at mayor and wanted to charge for a fee for renting. And if we look at, and the discussion point at that point is when we rent out the pavilion or rent out the ball field or rent out the community area here, we don't allow anybody else in here. It's closed. That's their reservation. When the disc golf community came and they said we want to have a tournament, we looked at it and said, well, you're going to close it. And, nah, if anybody wants to join us, to play with us, go have fun, throw the disc with us. We want people to play with it. They don't need to pay to play. They can just join it. It's a tournament. Yes, they did register, and I'll admit I didn't look into the whole registration and what that is. That to me, it was gathering of people to play a tournament. Within the last year, we had financials shown for Mr. Humphrey PDGA tournaments, and they showed what the purses are, what the charges are, what the fees are, and what they collect at times too. And that was news to me. I didn't realize that they charged it. So having an special event permit, I agree with the charge now. Do I still think it should be closed to the public? I don't think so, but if we're gonna charge an excessive amount, they might have the right to say, no, nobody can come in. Do I think that they'll do it in meeting some of the disc golfers out there when the occasional times that I'm out there? I don't think that's the class of people that they are, personally, my opinion. They would be welcoming and ask people to join because that only means that somebody else will get into the sport. Somebody else will want to join the tournament officially next time. So when it comes to that event permit, I would be hesitant on saying nobody else can use the course, but I would be strongly encouraging to say you can't deny somebody to play on the course. If somebody wants to tee off with a set of 4, let them in. It's not a paid course. It's not your traditional golf course that you have to schedule a tee time. If we want to get into that, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, Mike, I agree with what you said from talking with some of the disc golfers. They said that when they do have tournaments, that other people can come along and just go with them and golf. Not that they would win the purse or anything like that, but they are able to participate and see how they do, and there's a camaraderie is what I understood.
What if somebody comes down there and is walking around, gets hit in the head with a disc, cracks his skull? Who's going to get sued? Would be my question, and something like that.
It's a valid question. But I would go back. It's been operating for 8 years now without such an incident. But you always run that risk, even if you're playing. My son hit my daughter. It happens. She was standing to the side. Again, kids are young. What happened there? Not sure. But it always can happen, even if people are walking off, even if, like on regular golf course, what happens there if somebody hits and you yell 4 and it hits them? I don't know that rule, but
The golfer's responsible.
Because there are
golfers responsible.
spectators
Yeah.
too, right? Spectators.
So another item is we could always, in the QR code, when you register, you are responsible for your disc.
It gives us an excuse to have them register so we know who's using it too.
Not only registration for it, we know the knowledge of who is it, we know the people who are using it. A lot of things that you can do when you register. And that's getting into the weeds, I'm sorry.
Update B.
Okay, so
Any other questions?
Move on to B.
Well, does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, we can move on.
moving on to the next item. Okay, so next item after disc golf course update is the 7B, Parks Master Plan Update and Work Plan. Okay, so I sat down with Administrator Chansky based upon our conversations that we've had before with you guys and kind of things we've learned about the master plan and the CIP and kind of how old it is. And admittedly, it is very old. It's from like 2011. And trying to figure out the best way to do this. And we heard a lot of things from you guys about how these meetings are useful, but you kind of want to be able to sit down in an environment that's maybe a little more relaxed, where you could invite people in, where you could talk to them and, do things, maybe get a little more interaction, things like that. So what we were thinking with that in mind is the current master plan that we're revising is divided into 4 sections, which are plan elements, parks, trails, open spaces / linear parks. Those are the 4 sections. Now, there are other sections that are in there for, finances and strategic planning and operations and those sorts of things. We were kind of thinking, because those are more broad questions, we might want to tackle those in each of these individual items, because how you market and finance a trail is going to be totally different from how you're going to market and finance a park versus how you might do an open space and things like that. So those are kind of support items to those 4 big items. So what we were thinking was that the best way to do this may actually be throughout the 2023 calendar year this year, and it is going to take a while, is to start doing workshops after each of your guys' meetings, after your regular meetings over the next several months. So starting today, I have here approve the plan recommended by staff, which is this plan that's in front of you right now, with any modifications requested by the committee, and begin that implementation. You can also obviously consider altering any naming conventions of the plan, or if you even don't like this plan, you can tell me you don't want to do it. But what we were thinking was, if you're okay with it, and we will want a motion on that eventually, is July 13th, we're going to come into here. We're going to handle whatever business we can handle, like the signs, if we can get it done in time. We'll bring the signs back for the regular meeting in July. Hopefully it'll be pretty quick. It'll take maybe 30 minutes, and then we'll immediately adjourn, take a 5-minute break, get some water or whatever, and then come back into a workshop. And the workshop will be workshop number 1 on the plan elements section of the master plan, which is clear there. You can see its mission statement, it's high-level stuff, it's all those nitty-gritty details. What are parks? What does it mean? What do you guys want to do? That kind of stuff. And we would do that there. You would come to an agreement on your workshop there on kind of what we do. We would go back as staff, make adjustments to the plan on that first section, which is just plan elements based upon all the conversations. And then we would bring that back on August 10th during your regular meeting for approval, assuming that you guys are okay with the changes we've made as a result of your workshop. And then you would approve it there. We would approve anything else that needs to be approved. And then we would go into workshop number 2, which is on the park sections. And that's going to happen basically all the way down throughout the year until we get to November, where staff is going to finalize the master plan, bring it forward. We'll ask you for any last-minute changes, additions, adjustments you think are important, with the goal of getting it before the council on December 4th for final approval. The reason we want to get it in for December 4th for final approval is because then we have a brand-new master plan on 2024 when we roll around. We can immediately start work on the CIP with a master plan that's brand new, and we can say, okay, these are the things we're doing over the next 5 years, 100% for certain, or really get us a strong guidance, and then we're good to go in 2024, and we can really hit the ground running on getting somewhere with some of the material that we have. That's kind of what we're imagining right now. Any thoughts, at least to start? However you guys want to go, yeah.
Go ahead,
I
Diane.
tell you, the more I reread this original plan, the more I see in it that I like. I mean, I know we have to update, but I basically like the work that was done. I agree with a lot of it. And I think your schedule here works pretty well, in my opinion.
I concur. I would like to add what we had kind of talked about, adding a workshop just as our group gets together for either June 15th, 22nd, or 29th. And if you could put that out there on the, what do you call that, where you send it out and then people put in the date that works best for them, and the one we get the most people is the date it works.
Okay,
for.
so
Since we're missing 2 people,
you're
from 5 to 7, a
thinking-
meeting at Four Seasons Trail parking lot.
Okay, so back up 2 seconds for me here. So you're thinking, what was the 3 dates? June 15?
22nd or 29th on Thursdays, just like today, from 5 to 7 or 5 to 6 if we only need it.
Did you say 22nd or 27th?
22nd, 15th, 22nd, 29th. So
22nd.
they're all Thursdays.
29. So that would be
I would tell, the 15th won't work for me.
15, 22nd, 29. Okay.
That's why we send it out to everybody, and we see how
And
how many people can go.
29th is the weekend of 4th of July. You know, the 4th of July weekend. A lot of people come.
Well, there's two of them, really, because it's in the middle of the week.
Yeah,
But
I got,
that's why we just send it out and see how many you get, because we got Megan gone and Diane. And then when
So-
you can get the most
see, I still
people,
have
like,
my granddaughter all through June. My husband's getting interred on the 12th. I have a legal deposition to do on the 16th. I just, that's just too much for me in 1 week.
that's why we
I'm
send it
sorry,
out to everybody
yeah.
and just see who can come.
Yeah, but it sounds like that's the only one that worked for Sandy, but I've been to that park.
Well, we talked about going to all the parks, because we haven't been to them, and a lot of people I heard today that haven't
Yeah.
been to that one at all, don't even know where it
Yeah.
is. And then we have a quick discussion, and then we just kind of have a general overview, so we can get off to a start. I just feel like we haven't been able to just, get together besides sitting in a formal row here.
Or we could all make sure that we all commit sometime in June. You've seen the trail, you know the
Oh, yeah.
trail. But so if you
I've
haven't
skied
been there,
it.
you get out there, and then on our workshop on the 13th, we discuss.
I just thought it would be better to be able to have a discussion between people, not just all out there solitary. That was the idea of
But-
workshop, is to get together.
Well, that's what this is. It's a
Daniel,
workshop.
Yeah, but
would that
that's-
violate
that's-
the open meeting law? Well, you'd have to publish that, right?
Yeah, we would need to notice it. That's
Yeah,
okay, though.
why
We
I'm
could
saying-
notice it if we
talked
need
about
to.
adding we've talked about this, but Megan's not here, and she was going to do it
Yeah.
tonight. So
The
I'm
fifth,
just taking it up where we had discussed it before.
Or before the meeting on the 13th? I mean,
Adding another workshop
Are you talking about going to every
in.
single park on the same night?
No, just
Okay.
one. Just one, and having a look at it, and I think that would that's one of our biggest things, is that trail system there that has gone into disrepair and can use some help, and I think that's going to be, it'll definitely come back up again
Yeah.
I think of all the things we have out there right now that need to be kept up on or move forward with, that's probably the biggest one. The rest of them are in pretty decent shape. So that will come into these other discussions for sure, but it's best if we're out there taking a look at it beforehand. So that's why we just had talked about, she was even going to try to get it in the workshop before this meeting, but it didn't work out. To have us have a, new
So if I could interject.
7-group planning,
Yeah.
just a workshop meeting.
If I could interject real quick, just for staff, so you guys are aware of some dates. The 15th could possibly work if you guys wanted to do it then. You would definitely need to decide right here, right now, though, because we would need to notice that like immediately on Monday. So if you were gonna do the 15th, you'd have to vote on it pretty much right now. The 22nd, just give me 2 seconds. The 22nd, that would probably be kind of hard. LMC conference is happening then. So a lot of people in the office are going to be very swamped kind of trying to figure out legislative priorities. And David's going to be working at that conference. So we might be able to maybe spare Joe if maybe you wanted a staff person there who could show you around. It would be kind of difficult for me to do it. And David definitely can't because, like I said, he's going to be at that conference working. And the 29th, I could be here. I'll have to tell my parents to take care of themselves for a couple hours because they're going to be here visiting and I'm on vacation. So if you really, really, really want to do the 29th, I can do it. I can do it. I'll figure it out.
Well,
Yeah.
how's the 15th then? No.
I'm still trying to
Okay.
figure out what we're doing here.
We all talked about it before.
But I'm just trying to clarify.
So we're a new group of 7 people, and then we haven't had a chance to all get together and just talk besides sitting in this row. And that's what we were going to get together and just talk about general and then take a look. We wanted to go to all the parks, we said. That was our grand idea before. So just following up on it. And if we can't do the 15th, the 29th, you said, was probably the next maybe possibility.
Yeah, the 29th is probably the next maybe possibility. The 22nd, I don't think would really work, probably.
And there's somebody, can anyone do the 29th then? Okay.
The 13th at 4 o'clock before the meeting.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said let's get it in before the June, but we couldn't do it. Couldn't even get it in then. So I guess we'll drop it.
Well, let's see here.
At least we can all just visit the park.
Yep.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's
We can all go to the
absolutely
park.
worth a visit, for sure.
14th is when we discuss trail sections.
Well, if we're just going to meet, we,
Sure,
yeah.
to get some time over the summer here, before September 14th, we all make sure we get to those trails.
Four Seasons Trail off of Winter Trail Road. And there's a little map
Yeah,
online, but try to follow that and go through there. It's really
I've
hard.
been back there.
It's hard.
So does that work for
That
everyone?
works,
And
yep.
then we discuss it
That's what'll have to work.
I just have a suggestion that maybe since we meet once a month, we visit one park a month and then we designate a little time in each meeting just to talk like we are right now. about
We do on our own. We visit the parks on our own, then we can meet, and then we,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
have our meeting in
If we can't come up with a date, yeah.
Designate a little time to talk about that park, and then the next month we
Yeah.
have a different park, so on and so forth, because summers are
Yep.
just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not like they're far away.
Yeah, you could absolutely do that if you
So
wanted to.
July, we'll do the Four Seasons.
That's a good idea.
What should we do for August?
Let's pick that park at the
At the July?
July meeting.
Okay.
We'll just
Yeah.
make schedules done.
Okay, so you're talking about doing a discussion essentially on July there for the Four Seasons Trail?
Yes.
Put it on our agenda
Okay,
for
yeah.
speaking about that.
There's consensus from all of you on that? You all think that's a good idea?
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
so we're not going to be doing what's listed for July 13th then?
No. we
Oh,
are.
no, you
This
would.
is at our meeting, at the Park and Rec meeting. We're
Okay.
just gonna go over that.
We're going to do a field trip there?
No.
Oh, we want me to see it first?
Yes.
first.
Individually, we go there at that meeting, we just talk about that park just for a few minutes. You know,
Yeah.
designate
It
some
won't take
time.
you but 2 seconds there, believe me.
Yeah. Well, whatever it takes. So,
Not if you walk it.
the whole point
If you
of this
actually
is
walk
that we
it.
all visit our parks and we can all talk about the parks.
Yeah.
And we can break it down so this is really simple.
Yep.
I think this is a good idea that we're doing due diligence, because I think in my experience here in the year and a half that I've been fighting some folks on one issue, which we all know what it is, I think there was a lack of due diligence. And that kind of leads, this master plan, I read this 2011 master plan, and I think it's great if we actually follow it. But we have different elected officials that have different agendas that come up here, and this stuff doesn't get followed. I mean, did you read what the survey said? You know, the number one reason, 89%, was protecting natural areas is important. Recreational facilities, the most needed were a trail system, fitness center with pool, 27%, picnic facilities, 25%, rec center, playgrounds, 21%, swimming pool, 19%. There's nothing about disc golf in there. Yet, 2 years later, they're building a disc golf course. I think there's a lot of work for folks.
That was
if
also
we're
on
not
the
going to stick
plan,
to
in
it.
another area. That was on the plan since 2015, so.
Pardon?
That other one was on the plan since quite a long time.
It's stated in this that the comp is intended to become a standalone element of the comprehensive plan that will guide park and rec development over the next 10 to 15 years. You know, so I'll follow it if,
It's a changing, it's a live document, it's always changing, but it hasn't been updated
so
for
why
a
do it? If it's always
long time.
changing, why do it?
Because you have to have something to go by, and this is way overdue, 2011.
Well, they did a comprehensive plan in 2020, which is actually almost the same survey results were the same as far as protecting the trees in a quiet neighborhood. This is why people love to come here. You know, I'm all for the work if it's followed, you know.
If I could interject for 2 seconds here, not to cut you off. Just, Miss Williams? Is she actually leaving the, okay. She's stepping out of the meeting, okay. So let the record reflect that at 6:20 PM, Miss Williams had to step out. We still have a quorum. There are 4 members here. I panicked a little bit when I started. Sorry, you can continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's quite all right. I just think what was done in the past, we need to move on. Golf course is there. It's going to be done. There's no changing it. I mean, we made some amendments, but I think we need to look forward and do what we need to do as a committee and not get stuck on the past.
I think we have.
We didn't.
We have, we're just talking about actually following the plan as that's put on paper.
We use it as an example.
I agree.
Right.
We get in a conversation, about the golf course that go on and on and on. And none of us were involved in that at the beginning. We can just do what we can do. That's just kind of my 2 cents.
I do want to say, though, that was brought up about a plan. You know, it wasn't about the disc golf course. It's just so that I think it was such a problem for so many people. It's done. You know, that's behind us. We want to make sure that we never get in that position again. It's about
I agree.
transparency, and so that's why I think it's brought up, so that we don't go back.
Concur.
Okay, so circling back around, we've gotten a little bit off track here, good conversation, but I am still kind of seeking committee action on the plan here for the workshops, for the different workshops for the master plan. Immediately after your guys' meeting for the next couple months, as I said before, get through December 4th, have council approve the final master plan, get into January, blah, 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 all the stuff I said before. I would like a motion, if it's okay, for approval of that plan so that staff can get started on it immediately and we can start actually kind of moving forward and implementing things and preparing for it.
I'll put that motion in.
Second.
Okay. Sandy motion, McKellar, second. Okay, is there any discussion on that motion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, it's her.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is 7C, I believe, which is the 2024 Parks Budget Kickoff. Okay, so just to give you guys some background here, at the last Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, you guys had talked about wanting to do some stuff with the budget a little bit here and there and make some changes to the accounting versus possibly even adding more money to the budget or asking the council for permission to add more money to the budget if they thought it was appropriate. As a result of us getting kind of close to that budget calendar season, Administrator Chansky did actually present the full budget calendar to council at the last council meeting and get them to approve it. You can see it right here in your packet. This is actually the 2024 budget calendar that's currently before them that they approved at the last meeting. With that in mind, sort of looking through that and the timing of things that we have, what we were kind of hoping for today was actually to get into a little bit of conversation surrounding what you guys were envisioning for the budget. If you did want to ask for more money, if you wanted to add line items like Mr. Toft was talking about and get into some more of those general details on what exactly is going to happen with the entire budget and essentially what do you guys envision you would like to recommend as your budget to council moving forward. And we do kind of need to get moving pretty quick on that admittedly because it's June 8th already and we're kind of starting to move through it. But just tonight, like it says on the packet here, discuss overarching goals and desires for your 2024 parks budget, and then we'll take that discussion and implement it into the draft budget accordingly and move from there to get it before council in time. So I'll let you guys have the floor, whatever thoughts you have about, did you want to do a budget increase like you had talked about before or ask for a budget increase from the council? Obviously, Mr. Toft, you wanted to talk about adding line items and things like that.
Just so we know what if we're asking for a real number. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to just ask for more money and not have any idea where we're going to spend it. Now, we've talked about a community garden, which was a great idea, and we're going to need funds for that. I mean, I have no idea. I've been here 4 months, 5 months at these meetings, so I'm not sure where I would even start. I don't want to be one of these governmental, I'm in the for-profit industry, and so I don't want to be just adding a certain percentage to the budget each year just to add it. We want to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. So I guess I would defer to some folks that have been here, like Jim, who's been here before, longer. I think, Sandy, you got on this with, yeah, and I'm not sure how long Gail's been here, but
A year.
yeah. So, I would defer to what you guys would suggest, I guess, is what it should be.
Well, I would like to put budget money for the garden in. We did have a proposal and that Joe worked up for us. It ran from 50 to 127,000, so that's quite a range. And that's without getting any funding or any grants or anything like that, which there are available funds. We talked to that person. She was very helpful. We'd love to have her come and talk to us in front of the group at a public, at the public, whatever you call it, to discuss the garden. We found out that the water supply in the location we're talking about over here, did you know where we're talking about? Okay, which seems like it's just perfectly appeared an open section. That would work right into our plumbing for watering. And he got a bid on that, so that would take away putting in a whole new well and everything, which brought us up to the 127,000. So now we're at 50 or below. And then we didn't even talk about donated items. So we're just we put the highest number for everything in so that we would not be short.
I think when Joe did the budget, he went high end, which was really
Yeah,
great.
we put everything in.
The well's $10,000, we know that, and I know that. But hopefully we would need that. And Gail and I had worked together on a few things where, donations and, there's a lot of opportunity for us to get this thing, a lot of it paid for. But we need to have some budget, not that it all has to go to it. If we could get the whole thing donated, that'd be great. But, have something to get going on this thing. I think Breezy Point is behind the curve here on a community garden. I really do. Even though it's like I'm the one who brought it forward, but I really do believe it's a really important thing. So I think there's ways to keep that money like you had found out about grants and things like that, and we can definitely pursue that, but to really get it on the books, that we need money for that. Trails, looking at these trails, how are we going to improve them? Are we going to improve them? We don't really have a budget at all. There's things we like to do, and then we turn it over to the council, and they can see if there's money in there. Mm-hmm. To have some sort of budget doesn't mean we have to spend it. I'm not one of those that, we have it, we better spend it.
Right.
But
I like to come in under budget.
yeah,
So if we get 50, we,
but, what is the priority for the city and parks?
well, like he said, the trails was number one. It looks like a pool for sure is 46%.
Overall for the city,
Yeah.
It hasn't been a priority per se, and is it going to be now? And we need money for that.
Plus all the other things we talked about with the pavilion at the disc golf. We'll make it, what do they call that? A camping bathroom, that's over at the Fire Tower Trail Park. So it's not just a porta potty; it's a bathroom with a door, and if you have to change or whatever, that would be more of a better bathroom to have.
At the disc golf course parking lot?
Yeah.
There'd be huge resistance to that, I think, but let's not go down that path.
Well,
I
that
just
would
think-
be the
let's
right
stick to
idea.
what we
to
want, how
have
much
there.
money
It's
we
a
want. Was 30, what, 6?
Park, and we're talking about putting up a playground maybe there too. So that's new.
Well, I think it comes down to, we could discuss all the things that we want to do.
Right.
But we really don't have a budget. We don't have anything to work with. We come up with ideas and we have to pass it along. So, it'd be nice, I think, for our group to have some sort of budget where, okay, this year maybe we can do this little part of a trail, or, maybe next year we do a garden or the gardens first.
Just commit to one trail or park per year in the budget.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
give us a budget. I think that's what I think we're all hoping for. So is that what you're asking? Like-
I mean, yeah, in a way. I know it's a difficult question, and you don't know how much you want to spend. But the nice thing, on one other hand, is you don't know how much you want. So maybe it's easier to set a simple number and ask the council, "Hey, could we have up to X amount of dollars to be able to have some power over to do stuff with?" Admittedly, the Parks and Recs committee has been on a shoestring budget for a long time. And they've done a fantastic job, honestly, working with the stuff they've had. And yeah, they do have to generally ask the council for things depending upon what they want. The nice thing about budgeting is there might be ways that we can do the budget or that the council could do the budget so that we shift money from elsewhere or we move things around and we don't necessarily have to have a levy increase. Now, I can't say 100% for certain if that will or won't happen, but a lot of the times budgeting kind of comes down to more of an art than a science, trying to figure out kind of where everything is and how to do it and what they are and where the numbers are and trying to balance it out. It's sort of that question of, I know last time you guys had talked, at least some of you had talked briefly about, maybe even asking the council to just bring it up to like a flat 100,000 and be like, hey, if we just had that, maybe that's something we could actually do money with. Maybe we could have a little more power to fix the trails or do things here or there. Really, it's up to you guys. It's kind of whatever you as a body think you might be able to spend or might want to spend, or to a certain degree, like Mr. Toft is saying, how much you're willing to increase it if it does come down to a levy increase. And obviously, it is the council's job at the end of the day to make the final decision as the fiduciary authority, but you guys can pose anything you like to them.
If we knew the exact cost of what is under our purview, we could come up with a number, I think, pretty easy. Because, especially after we've seen everything all the trails, the fishing dock, the swimming beach, the two disc golf courses, the ballpark here. After we've all had gathered that information, we'd have a lot better idea about what we'd like to accomplish, I think, with a chunk of money. For us to just randomly say, well, let's increase it to 50,000. I think we're doing the taxpayers a disservice by saying that until we know what things actually cost. So I'm hoping that we get to governmental accounting so we can actually know what everything we talk about here actually costs, and it's not just put it in the general fund and we don't know what the numbers are.
Well, go ahead. Well, I think we know that the garden, I want to get going with the garden, obviously, and I know it's going to be 40 to 50,000. So I would like to go with that amount, and then if we'd like to do something with the trails, then we need to have some more money available. And I don't know how much that is because we haven't done any project like we did a big comprehensive plan for our gardens. We had everything in there with the whole, all the rules, everything.
There's so many places.
We just don't know.
Yeah, I know, and I agree that we need to get started on that. I agree. But I know you've got a lot of expertise sitting there and at Chansky's desk, and you got a financial specialist now that can write grants. They could maybe get $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 given to us so we could get a heck of a start. Then we add to that budget and we get some of these beds that these folks like.
They won't match. There's matching money and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the whole process. I know.
Well, we haven't even gotten approval for a garden, so you
Yeah.
can't really do a grant.
Right.
Yeah, and it works 6 months in
Right.
advance. So if we don't get approval to start on it now, we will not have it for 2 or 3 years because the money gets given out. You have to have everything in writing at a certain time of year, like by January, then they give it out, and then by April, boom, you got to go. So, I mean, I think we put in the 100,000, and we don't use it. We don't use it. But we get started on the garden and see what we can do with the rest of it. And if we can't, we don't spend it. I mean, we're going to be voting on these things. We're not just going to spend all the money we put in.
The question I have about it when you have the budget is, okay, how is that broken down? Is it like, okay, we have a $50,000 something budget right now, correct?
Right now, the budget is, hang on 2 seconds, let me.
34,
right.
Right now, your 2023 budget, your total, if that's what you're looking for, is the 36,750 that's right there.
Okay, so I'm wondering how that budget is broken down. Is it, like how much is for?
Well, it's right here.
Maintenance of the park?
Yeah, that's what's in your packet there. That is, sorry, I
Right
can
here.
try to rotate
Page
it if you don't have it
43
before
in your
you.
packet.
Labor, there's no gas, there's no depreciation.
Right,
So,
Oh, that wasn't it.
that's what I'm wondering, yeah.
so you want a number above and beyond that number. We gotta use that as a base number and then add, so then we're talking 50 and 38.
If that was what you wanted to do, you could be. Like I said, right now, your current standing budget is that, let me zoom in here real quick, is that 36,750. That's like your total 2023 budget. Just so you understand, this is the current style of the breakdown that it is.
So, okay.
So these are all the items as they're kind of laid out, just as they are in the current budget, the way it's set up. So let's say if you wanted to do 50,000 for the community garden, you could either add 50, you could make a request to do your normal budget like you would next year with your normal increase. I'm not 100% sure what that increase is off the top of my head right now because we don't have that set 100% yet, but you do your normal increase that's already in your past budgetary information, and then you could say, you could either say, well, maybe we only want to do the community garden, so maybe we only need 60,000 total then, and we don't do anything else for the year. And we make sure the community garden stays within that 60,000. I only say 60,000, so there's a little bit of wiggle room because it almost never goes out. Or you could say, we'll do the regular increase, keep the budget as is, but then ask the council, we want to do the community garden next year, so could we just add 50,000 to this so that we're 100% sure we can get the community garden next year? Like that would be kind of the style of the ask, or anything in between, anything more than that. Really, it's kind of, like I said, up to you guys as a body. What would you think you would use and what would you like to ask for?
Well, I'm looking at the 22 budget here. Only 54% of it was used, and it was only 17,800 because we didn't do anything. There's nothing done. It's just maintenance, basically. Nothing new. So, you know, that's what they do. You put in extra and you don't use it, you don't use it. I think it's good to get in there with a number, like you suggested in the first place. And then if we don't use it, we don't use it. And if we need more, we go back to them and they have to approve it. If we have a real project that we think strongly about, that costs more than what we have, then we ask for the difference.
If we concentrate on one project per year.
Right.
The garden this year, 50,000. Say we ask for that above and beyond, and then next year, that's just in our budget for a different project, but we have 50,000 going forward, that's what we do, one project at a time, and we just have that much allotted to us. But I'm with him, I don't want to raise taxes, I don't want levies increased, that's the big thing.
Right.
So where's that threshold that is not gonna cause?
That's difficult to say because it really is up to the council. So the levy is, of course, set by the council, and it's kind of decided upon based upon the knowledge they have and based upon the recommendations from committees that they have. What exactly an increase you can give without increasing the levy for the town? Like I said, it's kind of impossible to answer that question, I guess. At least with the knowledge I have before me right this second. I would recommend if you really want to drill into those numbers, it might be worth your time to come in and have a more full body conversation with Administrator Chansky, because he is the budget master. And really, he's the one who can get into the details of those finances and where the finances are at and how you might be able to move around finances. Because like I said, it's not always necessarily, oh, I want an extra $50,000. It has to go on the taxes. We could move money from somewhere else, possibly. Like if there was an expenditure that we had last year that we didn't have this year, maybe we could shift it. Or if there's a predicted thing like that, maybe you could move it from somewhere else. It's hard to tell exactly whether or not that's true in the preliminary stages we're at. Like I said, at this point, it's more of just a general question. If you guys wanted more money, alternatively, you could say, yeah, we want more money. We really want to do the community garden. Tell the council to give us more money. And I guess you could you could leave it at that and just see what the council's willing to give you if that is easier, but I would worry a little bit that the council might not give you what you need then because you didn't really ask specifically for something a little stronger to say, hey, this is kind of what we'd like to see.
And they don't know the detail.
And
And they don't want to, really. They need the bigger picture at them. you
They
know.
might not know all of the details, that's true.
I had also asked for a little brief synopsis of how budgeting works and how money spent versus property taxes going up versus levies versus all that. So I'd asked for that to be given for me so I can improve my knowledge. And Angel agreed that that was a good thing, that everybody should get a little synopsis
Yeah.
from staff over
Yeah,
that.
and we can absolutely do that.
By the
We
next
actually have some
meeting.
material like that around, I know already. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to prepare it in time.
No,
because it's
no,
just-
I didn't think
It was
that would-
very soon before the
Yeah.
meeting, so I couldn't get it to you today, but yeah, we can get you some stuff like that. Additionally, of course, all of the previous meetings from past years are all up online as well. So if you guys want to watch like last year's budget workshop, that's always there. And Administrator Chansky goes into those details and talks about levies and what they are and how things work and how budgeting works and all of that in those meetings because, well, we're kind of legally required to do it every year. So
And what meeting was that?
Budget workshop.
budget workshops that were all over last year. I can get you the exact dates of those
You can't go.
videos.
Is it on YouTube?
Oh, yeah, no, it's all on YouTube.
Could you
Yeah.
send us the link?
Oh, yeah, I can send you the link to the.
Yeah, if he would send us the link to those, that would be great.
Yeah, I can do that.
I do apologize to all committee members. I have to get my daughter to volleyball here. But Mr. Toff, as we said, we'd walk. I'm always open for discussion if anybody wants to contact me. So I apologize. I have to step out.
And I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to go too. I've got contractors at my house.
So
Okay.
So Dan,
Well-
let's move forward with that budget process with the governmental accounting being, we would like that and what applied to what the next year's expenditures are. Is that possible? We can close this up.
Yes, so, okay. So I apologize, Mr. Toft, we didn't get enough time to get to your item. So Mr. Toft had talked earlier about possibly changing the budget to have us drill down some more items into more specificity and get into some more specific line items and make sure that instead of having sort of this budget format that you have before you here, where we have these things out, possibly scale it down a little bit more, break it down further. Your motion would be to direct staff to look into doing that and to come back with something to,
That's my motion, yes.
okay, perfect.
I'll
Sorry.
second.
Second?
I'll second that one.
Okay, so we'll go with that motion. McKellar second. Okay. Any further discussion on that matter? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so seeing that we've kind of got to speed along here a little bit, does anyone want to make any kind of motion in regards to the actual money like you were just talking about
Well, I
before
will
we
make a
go?
motion to ask for 100,000, so 50 on top of the last year's budget for the garden, and some change for an increase.
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, is there any further discussion on that motion?
I'm all for this, the garden. I'm for all this. I just don't know if I can vote for it until I know what things cost. So I probably abstain, but I'm for it. Okay? I really am. Okay.
Okay, so I
Well,
just
it's
have
the
something.
36 from last year, plus the 50 for the garden, which is the number we worked on, and then a little increase from that last year.
Just
so.
got to stick to my principle of what, I need to know what it costs, what everything else costs. And I'm for it, but I'm just
I
going
mean,
to
those are the
abstain.
costs
I'm
from
not gonna vote
last
against
year.
it. I'm just gonna
Okay.
abstain.
But I don't know if you can abstain, can you?
So I actually have an update on that. I just want to let you guys know. So because we had the abstention issue before, I was
Yeah.
a little informed by Administrator Chansky that technically under Minnesota statute, because we are a statutory city, there are no abstentions or present votes. Every vote has to have a yes or a no from all members. And that was the attorney's statement as well.
Let's go. I'll go yes. Let's get it going. I'll go yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, so no more discussion on the topic? Okay, so we're going for that 100,000. We're going to ask for that from council, at least to start. We'll get that in the budget, and we'll try to go through that stuff as well. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Woo-hoo!
So that's our
Sorry.
final item on the agenda here, I believe. Yep. Staff reports. Okay, I gotta hold you guys for a little bit longer, because I do have a couple things I need to talk about quick.
You want to pass it to somebody? Do you have to go?
I really do have contractors.
Okay, you can go. We don't technically need a quorum for the rest of this, I guess, so
Okay, I
you can go.
apologize.
It's okay. Technically, it's okay. No one's gonna come and beat us up over it. I just need someone to call for the adjourn once I'm done with my report, so whoever can do that can do that. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so staff reports real quickly. So as you've seen probably walking in, we do have the comment center for City Hall and the community spaces and stuff that's up front right now. We are currently asking for input from members of the public. We'd love it if members and just people spread the word, do stuff, make a comment. This is the perfect time to go out there, and I've got sticky notes and comment cards, and you could write something on it and tack it on there and be like, hey, I want this to be included in City Hall, or I think that this design is less cool and I want this other design. You know, like anything you want. You can write anything you want on there and pop it in the comment box or stick it on the board.
The link on the Facebook page leads you right to where you can go in and type in.
That's the Bushman Roadway Project. That's our other
that's the Bushman.
current outreach. So the actual project, the project website for this one is not live yet because our website, our brand new one, which is breezypointmn.gov, goes live next Monday. And that actually has the project website already in it. I just have to finish it, and then when the website goes live, it will be live. And I do plan to update posts and stuff and move on to Facebook and do all that stuff as well. That will also give us the chance, once we've got the new website live as well, to start getting into the process of making our next store and start actually getting that information out there and doing all that stuff, which is great news. But like I said, if you guys wanted to do comments or say anything about City Hall, I encourage you to fill out a comment card or put a sticky note on it that's out there. You know, follow directions, do stuff. It doesn't even need to necessarily be about City Hall. If there's something you think that could accompany City Hall, or you want to do something with the grounds, you can throw it on there. We're really just trying to get people to tell us what they want ahead of actually council making a decision on anything, because they'd like community input. So that was the first thing.
Can we put on that plan a dotted line where the proposed garden would be, so they could see where if
We can't on that plan just because we don't have the grounds.
we don't have the ground?
Because we don't actually have a grounds proposed yet. Yeah, these are just the buildings now. But like I said, if you wanted to post something on there and say, I want a community garden, you could tack it on the sign and be like, I think it would look good over there. And like, we'll get a general sense of where it is on the grounds based on that, honestly, just because we kind of have a sense. But so that's good stuff. Like I said, the new website is going on June 12th. One of the things that you'll probably want to think about as we move through the workshops coming up as well is, what do you want the Parks and Rec section of the website to look like right now? It's just kind of a replication of the old one, which was a little barren. So once it's live, I encourage you to take a look and see what you guys want to do with it. And you can always come in and talk to me, and we can talk about improving it or doing anything on it. As a note, new microphones are incoming. I know the ones we have suck, so we worked with Digital Horizons on that. They're installing them on the 26th. So by the next time you come around here for your meeting, you should all have new microphones. They're going to be the little ear-worn ones that go over your ear. They should be a little more comfortable and hopefully a little bit easier to use. Yeah, that's basically all I've got at this point. If you guys wanted to say anything under committee member reports or say anything to the public, now would be the time. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.